what they quote unquote did, which half of the time it is complete bullshit and they didn't do it. They're just trying to sell you something. So we don't do that. We dive into the real shit here. Welcome back to the Beyond the Build pod. I'm your host, Wendell Butler. This is episode number 6. I still don't have an intro, so I'll spitball one. It's a raw, unfiltered, inside look into an entrepreneurial journey of building businesses, building real estate portfolios, figuring it out as I go. So you guys can actually see what is happening behind all the highlight reel bullshit that you see on social media. Most people don't talk about this stuff. I do. I give you the ins and outs of everything because I honestly believe that just life alone is saturated with just all highlights and nobody talks about how to do stuff. They just talk about what they quote unquote did, which half of the time it is complete bullshit and they didn't do it. They're just trying to sell you something. So we don't do that. We dive into the real shit here. Okay. All right. So today I want to talk a little bit about what's going on in my business. And kind of how we're pivoting currently in the current market that we're in for real estate. This is particularly just for my fix and flip new build company, Tynan Timber Ventures. And kind of just what's going on, what I'm seeing in the market, particularly in Charlotte, but I also just like around the areas that I invest in and kind of where we're heading, because you got to change, you got to pivot with the market and the economy. It's always a changing game. So if you always stick to one thing and don't slightly adjust here and there, I mean, you're going to fall behind. So you have to understand how the market's working, understand what is working in like your niche. For example, this is for real estate, and then pivot and move from there, right? So Tynan Timber Ventures is our fix and flip and new build development arm of my businesses. We do a little bit of wholesaling, but I don't really like wholesaling. And anyway, like the way we wholesale is we're very transparent. So we tell people that we're wholesaling, which makes it so most of the times it doesn't work out, because we're like, you can wholesale with us or you can just go retail and get more money, because we're very moral and we just want to help people, out of the situations, and we give them the best route. Sometimes that doesn't make us money, but I mean, I don't really care. I just want to help people. And other wholesalers will just, lie to sellers to get money, which we don't do. We just don't operate that way. That's not how our values are. Okay. But no shame in the game. That's just not what we do. Okay. So yeah, we do fix and flips and new builds. We've done a ton of fix and flips in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is where I moved to about 3 years ago. And I started doing fix and flips here because I realized that multifamily just wasn't really working. I did a lot of value add multifamily up in New England, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, before I moved here when I was getting started in real estate. Moved here, tried to do some value add multifamily, and just the numbers just don't work. There's too many new apartment complexes, too new units and stuff that you're competing with, that when you try to do value add, it just doesn't work. And combine that with the interest rate going up, and then all the new apartment complexes coming online offering 3 months free. They got like a pool, they got like gyms, they got like little coffee centers in their apartment complex, and your 1970s, 1980s value add build is just not going to compete with those. You're just not going to get the rents that are needed to successfully make the deal work. The only way that you can make it work is if you can buy it super low, which sellers are just not doing that today. There will be a time that I think they will, because there's a commercial balloon coming that everything is retrading and refinancing. So they'll be forced to do it. But right now it's not a good play here. So I totally stepped out of that. And we started doing fix and flipping here, which is, it's good, right? It's just really competitive. And we did about 10 to 15 fix and flips. Some went good, some went bad. And we learned a lot. I used to always say that I'll never do fix and flips because I just don't want to deal with those headaches. And I had to adapt to the market when I got here and do those. And now I'm realizing that I still don't want to do fix and flips because they are a major headache. And I'll touch on that. And we are now doing a lot more new development, new builds, and we're going to scale that way. I think that's the trajectory that we're going. It's a lot more scalable. It's a lot more fun. I like it a lot more. And I'll explain why. I'll compare fix and flipping and new builds. But I think fix and flipping is still great. It's a great thing to do every now and then if you want to, if you get a good deal and you can make some money on it. You can learn a shit ton from it. So if you're like getting into investing, doing a fix and flip right off the bat is a great way to learn about, how to buy right, how to structure deals correctly, how to budget, how to get renovation costs and line items lists from your GCs, understand how much everything costs, understand how to, find the after repair value with comparables, and then understanding what you need to provide in that house to list it and sell it quickly and effectively, and build relationships with like lenders, attorneys, real estate agents, wholesalers. It is a great way to get into real estate. Do I think it is the best way to invest? No, I don't. And do I think it's the most accessible way to invest? I would say, yeah. I would say fix and flipping, you probably have the most opportunity to do it. But I mean, you're dealing with one-off properties and they can go to shit really fast because it's a physical property that is old and you can open up a wall and you can see issues with it. So I have a love-hate for it. We're currently moving away from it because the margins are just shrinking so much. It's a combination of just sellers not budging on their pricing. The market has slowed down especially for fix and flipping. Like when you fix and flip a house, it just doesn't sell as good as like a new development. Even though there's a ton of people moving to Charlotte, like just people want new. They want new stuff. If you find a fix and flip like in a location that's hot, like a neighborhood that's really good, obviously that's fantastic and it's probably going to sell really good as long as you put out a good product. But if you're doing fix and flips like in areas and neighborhoods that aren't really that sought after, you better be conservative on your ARV, after repair value, and you better just be a pessimist when you're underwriting, because if you're shooting high and you're aiming high and you're hoping, praying that it's going to hit like a all-time high ARV for the neighborhood, like there's no chance. Like you're literally gambling at that point and you're going to lose to the house. The house always wins. I like that. The house always wins because you're flipping a house, but like casino house, Anyway, so let's compare fix and flips and new builds and why we are turning more towards new build development. So fix and flipping. Fix and flipping, you have the ability to, you have more opportunity, right? There's a lot of old houses that you can flip, and it's pretty straightforward. It's how much is this property? How much do I need to buy this for? How much renovation does it need? And what is the after repair value based on recent sales in the area? And then you do the math. And if it works out and you have the margins that you need within a certain timeline that you're going to do the project, it can work, right? And you have a ton of opportunity here. There's a ton of, and particularly in Charlotte and cities everywhere, right? So like there's a ton of like 1970s build here, ranch houses that they need updating, right? So you have a lot of opportunity. Now with new builds, there's a little bit less opportunity, but you can create more opportunity by being strategic, creative, and educating yourself a lot. So there's obviously land around that you can buy. A lot of it is, you'll see on the MLS and it's overpriced. Or you have tear downs. You can buy like single families and tear them down, right? And then you can also like subdivide. So you can get like a fix and flip and subdivide land off of it or whatever. But there's tons of different creative ways that you can find land and make it work. But the thing that people get held up on is, one, you do need experience for most lenders to get into new development. So people always ask like, oh, how do I do it? I've never done a new build. Like the way that I did it is I just partnered with someone that's done a new build. And if you partner with somebody that's done a new build, they let you do it. And once you do one, then the world is your oyster. It opens up, right? You can get lending pretty much from everybody because you've done one successful new build. Another thing is that people just don't understand the calculations of seeing if it's a good deal or not. It's literally it's pretty much the same as fix and flipping. You're going to look at new build comps, what they sold for, find the after repair value, and then you're going to go to a GC. You can partner with there's tons of new build GCs. There's people that specialize in it. There's GCs that do build and they do fix and flips. But you just want to talk to general contractors and see what their price per square foot build is and what their products are and what they look like. And then you have an idea of like what type of pricing it looks like. And it's more straightforward than a fix and flip because you're not dealing with an old property that you can open up a wall and it can change. You're dealing with a new build, which is like it's kind of a business plan. You have line items of how much everything's going to cost, and it's pretty much locked in. The vertical build is like locked in. And it's not going to change. Like you're not going to open up something and then all of a sudden it costs more. Like the cost is pretty much the cost. So you want to talk to some GCs, general contractors, and get an idea of the build cost and everything, and what's the going rate for the area based on spec homes, luxury homes, bigger developments, commercial development, etc. Right? Which takes a lot of conversations, takes a lot of talking to people and educating yourself. And that is one of the biggest holdups for people that get into new build because they just don't want to do the work to talk to people and get to know the information. And then third, you have to understand the zoning and the ordinances and stuff of the city, county, town that you are in, right? Because you can't just build a storefront in a residential neighborhood, or you can't build like a residential house in a commercial zoned area, right? So you just have to read. I know it's hard for a lot of people to read, but you have Claude too. You can always just ask Claude, right? You can put in the URL of the zoning ordinances, which all the towns, counties, and cities have, and you just ask them like, give me a summary, give me a breakdown of this stuff or where to find what I can build in these areas. And it will help you, right? There's so much accessible information nowadays that you should utilize it to get you some answers. And it's basically just understanding the verbiage in those ordinances. It's looking at what is this land zoned for? What can I build here? Can I build 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units, 4 units? How much frontage do I need? So like that is like the length of the front of the yard. How much, like what are the setbacks, which is like how far the property has to be from the edge of the properties. And then you have to look at like the square footage, how big is the lot, and like what is the square footage amounts that you need to build certain properties in that lot. It's very broad. There's a lot more information you have to dive into, but it's pretty much just reading. It's reading the ordinances and understanding what you can build there. And then it's talking to the county and the town and asking, can I build this here? And they'll say no, or they'll say, yeah. They're there to help you. That's their jobs. The one thing with new builds that you will run into is the lot factor that can change. But the best way to get around that is to get a general contractor out there to give you a firm lot factor right off the bat. And a lot factor basically is how much it costs to grade, how much it costs to get the kind of prep the land, clear the land and get it all ready to then build the house on. Now, the capital and timeline differences for those. The fix and flip, you can leverage a lot more because it is a physical house that's already there. So you can go up to like 100% financing with fix and flipping. They'll give you 100% of the purchase price and 100% of the renovations because the property is already there, which means that if you default, they can just take the property and finish it. And if you have a lot of experience and stuff, that's the only reason they're going to give you 100% financing anyway. And, they know that, quote unquote, that you're probably going to finish the project, especially if you have a big track record. Even if you're new, you can get up to like 90% financing for fix and flips because the physical property's there. You put 10% down. That's your skin in the game. And then worst case, if you fail a default after they did the underwriting to make sure the project made sense, they can always just take it back from you. For new build, you can usually only go up to 85% loan to cost, which essentially is how much is the whole cost of the project, how much was the land, how much is the build cost, and they'll give up with 85% of that. So you do need like 15% down usually, 15% of the whole project to put into it. But it's not that far off from getting started in like fix and flipping. It's 90%, for fix and flipping. Sometimes they might kick you down to 85% if you have no experience anyway. And then new builds is 85%. And some of them go up to 90% too. Now, new builds can take a little bit longer, but they can also be just as fast as fix and flips. A very easily cosmetic fix and flip can take 2 months, 3 months, and then you can try to sell it. Sometimes sometimes it takes less than a month, right? If you have a team and you can quickly get in there and get out. The new builds usually will take at least like 6 months from start to finish. And that is like the beginning of like planning and getting the permits going. When they break ground, it literally can get built in like 120 days to 150 days. So that's like, what is that? 4 months, 4 to 5 months, 4 to 5 months it can get built. But the benefit there is that usually the margins are much higher for new builds. And there's a lot less risk because the loans that you're taking out to build the properties actually usually are less than the fix and flips, to be honest. Fix and flip, like physical properties, they just sell, if they're already built, they're selling for like, in Charlotte particularly, it can sell for like 200, 300 price per square foot, right? New builds, you can buy the land for like, let's just say it's like 70,000 and they can build a property for like 100 to 150 price per square foot. So already cutting way lower into the actual first, like how much a normal house would be to buy, the price per square foot. So normally my new build loans are actually, a little bit less than a fix and flips, depending on the area and depending on the projects that you're doing. Does that happen all the time? No. Does it change based on the area and the project you're doing? Yes. But that is, it's just something that I've noticed, right? Another thing too is that usually you're buying the land outright. If you're getting, cheap dirt, so you're getting like 10K piece of land, and then you're building, the cost to build might be $200,000, but it's 100% holdback of the construction. So you're not really paying any interest on it until you start drawing from it, which makes it so the interest cost as you do in the new build is actually less because you're not putting as much money down in the beginning. You're not paying as much interest throughout it. If it's non-Dutch, you always want to do non-Dutch. There's a pro tip for you. Never do Dutch. Try not to ever do Dutch. Dutch means you're going to pay for your total loan amount, even the construction costs, the second that you close the loan. Even if you haven't drawn from it, you're going to start paying interest on it. Non-Dutch is you're not going to pay any interest on the construction cost until you draw from it. With fix and flipping, try to do non-Dutch too, so you're not paying money on that rehab until you draw from it. But you're usually buying a property for, let's just say, $200,000, and they're going to give you a loan for like $180,000. So immediately you're getting hit with interest. New build, you can go on with like, no loan, like no first dollar loan. So like you're buying the land for 10K cash, and then you're have $200,000 or whatever of construction money that you're not even paying interest on until you draw from it. So the holding cost I see from new builds is less, which is nice. And then so there's a little bit of the financing and the differences in like how long they take, right? Dealing with contractors. So new builds, it's a lot of planning up front. You plan the project, you get the architectural work, you get the permits, you're planning, making sure the zoning works, making sure you build it, and then working with the GC to come up with like the timeline and the plan and the contracts, right? Now, once you close, it's really just letting the GC go for it and checking in on each milestone and paying them, because they're just going to build that thing from ground to the finish, right? And there's not really a lot of things that get in the way, as long as you find a good contractor that works with the city well and works with the building inspectors well. Like it's such a smoother process. And then you just use the construction money that you get from your loan, right? You just keep drawing and paying and drawing and paying, and it just goes up pretty quick. I haven't had many delays with new builds. There's stuff with permits, and then weather might delay because you can't like grade or put down slab when it's raining. But it is what it is, right? Fix and flips, it's way more of a contractor headache, especially if you are subbing contractors out and dealing with them. Same thing with new build though. If you're subbing the contractors out for building, you are the GC, which I don't do. So either way, if you're acting as a GC, it's pretty much the same on both sides. GCs will say that new builds are better still, because fix and flips are just sometimes a pain in the butt. So fix and flips, yeah, like if you're subcontracting out, you got to deal with a lot of moving pieces. You got to deal with, other contractors working with other contractors, or even if you just use a general contractor, you got to make sure that they're, on time, they're doing the right things. And then it comes to, you open up walls and you can find things that are wrong with it. So you can open up a wall and you find like foundation issues, you find like electrical issues that you didn't know was there initially because you don't have X-ray vision. So then your margins can get cut down pretty quick. New builds, you do everything up front, and the only thing that can really change is the lot factor. Price, like cost of materials can go up randomly and stuff, but usually the GCs have it bought in bulk or have partners that have it bought in bulk that they buy from. So like the once you start the project, it doesn't really change. Like the cost of the materials don't really change on you. Fix and flipping, they you can open up a wall and then you can all of a sudden owe an extra $20,000 to fix foundation. New builds, you're building the foundation, so you're not really fixing old foundation. I have that issue of opening up a wall and being like, oh, what is this? So the margin of error of like more things coming up with a fix and flip is way higher than a new build. New builds are pretty straightforward. You kind of going into it, you just know what the cost is going to be. Some minor things can change, but it's nothing compared to a fix and flip. I've had so many deals where like we think we're going to profit like $60K from a fix and flip, and then at the end we profit 30 because we find $30,000 more of issues. For the new builds that I've done, it's been pretty spot on from our initial underwriting. The biggest thing with new builds is making sure you get that after repair value correct, and that's the same with fix and flipping. But so profit margins too. So like I said in the beginning, the profit margins for fix and flips are shrinking drastically, and it's because of the current market that we're in. The high rates is making buyers it's more of a buyer's market. So buyers can negotiate more for fix and flip properties and older properties. Sellers that you're buying the properties from are a lot more, everybody thinks their property is gold, like platinum gold, when it's usually a shithole, but they are still used to the COVID times when the properties were selling for just obnoxious prices. So there's still a little bit of a delayed effect of that. And then on top of that, Charlotte particularly, we have a lot of new builds coming, people moving in. So you're competing with fix and flips with new builds, right? And you're just not going to win if you're doing a fix and flip against a new build, unless a new build is complete crap and you do the fix and flip really good. Or if you're in a hot neighborhood, then it usually doesn't really matter. But I would say the profit margins are bigger with new builds because you can really work with the price to build. You can get really creative. Like you can find a piece of land that someone might think you can only build one property on, but then you can build two, or you can build three. With fix and flips, you just have that one property, unless you have land that you can subdivide, but usually it's that one property, and that's the only thing that you're working with. So you can't really get as creative. You kind of just look at the comps, what has sold recently, and you try to match them, right? And then you try to sell it for what they sold for, and that's kind of where you're at. New builds, you can get pretty creative in the beginning planning phase. That's what we do. We try to find out, hey, we have this lot of land. Can we build a duet? Can we build 3 townhomes? Can we build 4 townhomes? Can we subdivide this land in half and build 2 single-family homes? It's just more creativity that you can get into, which is awesome. So that allows you to increase your profit margins a lot more with new builds. And then fix and flips are just more stressful because it's an older property, and there's times that I would be having a flip going on, and I'm like, there's cold weather, and I'm like, oh snap, did we make sure to shut the water off there? Did we make sure to keep the heat on so like the water pipes don't burst and things like that? With new builds, like you don't have to worry about that because most of the time when you're building, there's no running water in there yet. There's no you don't need heat. Like you don't have you have newer pipes that can withstand the weather changes. And you don't have it's a brand new property that you're building. So the contractors usually schedule it the right way, with the weather. They'll avoid doing stuff for the weather that might complicate things, which is good. The fix and flip is already there, so things can go wrong. Plus, you just fix and flips. I've had people break into and steal stuff. New build, it's usually just a slab, but there's nothing in it, so they're not really gonna steal anything. And then so we are also switching to new builds because I think it's just a lot more scalable. With fix and flips, you can't really scale to the point of doing new build development. New build development, you can have one project that you're building 20 houses at once in a subdivision. Fix and flips, the only way you can really scale is by purchasing 20 properties and then fixing and flipping them. You can have one project with new builds and new construction that has way more unit counts, way more profit margin, and it's all like the same type of home you're building. So it's a lot more just controllable compared to scaling a fix and flip. Because fix and flips, you might have like one across the city, one close to you, one in another town, and you have contractors going left and right everywhere. And it's just such a administrative and logistical headache to try to scale that. New builds, yeah, I mean, you can build like a 15 townhome community and it's all in one spot. So like you just go to one spot. The logistics are way easier. Contractors love it more because they're always going to the same spot for all the homes. The material deliveries are easier. Everything is just pretty much easier. Plus, you can just scale a lot more. So you need a lot of capital to scale fix and flipping. You also need a lot of capital to scale new build development. But the fact that you can do like a project and just start growing like each project that you do, say you start with like a single family new build, then you go to like duet, and then you go to like a 4 townhome, and then you go to like a 12 townhome. It's just scalable in that way, right? Fix and flipping, you start with 1 a year, and then you go to like 3 a year, and then you go to like 6 a year. And then you usually get to the point you're doing like, I have people that are doing like 10 a month or so, and they're kind of capped out. And then you always have, it's the same with new builds, but you always have like, out of those 10 properties that you're fixing and flipping, 2 are going to not do good. And then it's almost like you did 5 fix and flips when you did 10, because the 2 that didn't do good took profit away from 3 other ones that you did. New builds, it's more predictable. If you don't get the after repair value right, you are going to hurt really bad. Like if you think that you can sell it for way more than other things, you're not, and you get too emotional, you can really screw up new build development. But it's a lot more predictable, and also it's a new product. It's a new build product, which is more sought after, depending on location and area. But it's usually more sought after by home buyers, especially ones that are moving into a city and just want something that's new that they don't have to worry about. Let's see, what else can I talk about? So I'm not hating on fix and flipping. I'm just saying that we are starting to pivot away from it because of the market and the current economic trend that I'm seeing. It is just a headache, and it's not something that I'd really want to do anymore. Will we still do it here and there if the profit makes sense? Yeah. But new build development is a little bit more, it's more strategical. It's less hands-on for me. Because I don't want to, I'm not a general contractor, never want to be a general contractor. But it's just easier to just maintain those projects and kind of see where they're going compared to a ton of fix and flips. But I would say, like, if you're getting into real estate, I think you should start with doing fix and flips because you learn a ton. You learn about how to deal with contractors. You learn about how to deal with lenders. You learn about how to deal with budgets and understanding how much things cost, which you need to know. Is even for new builds, you need to know that, and they can transfer over. And then you learn about just the whole process of like purchasing, rehabbing, listing, and going full cycle with a fix and flip will teach you so much. So I think everybody should do a few fix and flips just to like understand it. And plus just to have that on your tool belt in case like you do see an opportunity that is a great opportunity with fix and flipping, because there are a ton. It's always good to like understand and not be afraid to do it. But with that being said, I like building more. So we're slowly pivoting. We started doing a lot more new builds. We have 3, 4, 5, 6 going on right now. And we have 1 flip. And surprise, that 1 flip is losing money. So it just confirms that we want to go more into new builds. And I don't know. We'll see what it takes us. I would love to do subdivisions, multi-home subdivisions, townhome complexes. I'd like to get into commercial building, build some commercial properties and rent those out. Another thing I wanted to touch on too is that The long-term rental game right now is really taking a hit. And I know this is running longer than most podcasts, but I like talking about this one thing. So long-term rentals right now are taking a hit. I would say probably nationally, but at least definitely in Charlotte. And then I also invest in New England, and New England is taking a hit too. Um, because it is hard economically for people right now. They can't afford as much. Money is tight. Charlotte, like I said before, a lot of new apartment complexes are coming up. So when those come online and they're trying to frantically fill them because they have to fill them and they're stuck. They didn't time it right, so that at the end of like the whole COVID everything, pretty far at the end of it. But everybody started building here in like 2020 to 2022, and so some of these ones that have been on pause are coming online now, and they're just like, please rent from us. We'll give you 3 months free. We got a pool, gym, little coffee cafe on the first floor or whatever. And that's making rents come down, right? Because you got these single family homes around, you got these, you might have a duplex, you might have a triplex, quadplex, whatever. And like you can't compete with those apartment complexes that are literally in downtown. They have everything you need from a gym, pool, little cafe, whatever, right? They have like everything you need. And then they're giving these people 3 months free rent. So it's going to, right now, it's making rents go down a little bit, which I think will stagnate and it'll start hitting just like a straight line, and then it'll slowly start going up again. But right now, it is like impossible to buy a long-term rental and have a cash flow unless you can get it for a really, really good purchase price and you find a seller that is reasonable, which is really hard to find right now. Now with new builds, you can build to rent, right? And like I said before, you're buying these houses. So you say I'm going to go buy a house to rent it. I got to pay like $250 a square foot for it. These are just random numbers, but $250 a square foot, which is like, let's say $400,000, and then I could rent it for like $2,000 a month, which is like a 0.5% rule. I'm sure everybody's heard of the 1% rule of renting. It doesn't even get close, right? But if you build to rent, you can build a $400,000 house for like $200,000, and then you can rent it for $2,000. Which after the math and stuff, that might not cash flow, but you get what I'm saying. You can build houses for half the amount of money that it costs to buy an already built or a physical house or an old house. So the build to rent model is like the only way to really successful that I'm seeing right now for long-term rents in this area. Other than that, you got to do stuff like Airbnb, you got to do midterm rentals, you got to do co-living. I'm seeing a lot of co-living stuff, which I'm not a fan of. You're basically turning a single family home into like, I don't know, into like a room and board, like college house where people are renting rooms from you. And it's just a logistical headache with leases and stuff for like, I don't know. I'm a lazy investor for long-term rentals and rentals. So like, I don't want to put any effort into dealing with that stuff and the legalities behind it and all the paperwork and leasing and all that. Now, is it a good investment? It could be. I could see it because people need cheaper housing. There's a lot more people that want to do that, but I also don't. I don't know. I just don't like it because it's turning into like a renter's nation, which I don't know. I don't like supporting that. I like supporting building and building new supply for people to buy. Like I think that's awesome, and it's kind of like gives back to the community. You're helping build infrastructure that's going to help support society and the town and whatever. I don't know. I like the idea of that a lot. But yeah, there's my rant. So to me, we're pivoting more to new build development. I think I can really scale that, and I'm excited about it. We got some good partnerships in the making, and just from the little, new builds that I've done so far, it's been already just way more pleasant than doing fix and flips. Now fix and flips, I think everybody should start there. I think they should do one or two just to learn from it. It's just going to make you better if you do decide to go to new development, or you do decide to go into long-term renting, or, multifamily renting. Like it really is like the base of teaching you everything there is about like rehab, how to talk to sellers, how to buy, how to project manage, a project, and and deal with lending and whatever, right? It teaches you everything. So I think fix and flipping is a great stepping stone. And if you like it there and you want to scale, God bless you. But some people are really good at it and love it. I have a couple friends that do like 100 homes a year and they're killing it, but I don't want my business to go that way. And it's just my opinion. But that's my quick take. Quick, that's 37 minutes, but or 30 or so minutes. Usually these are 20 minutes. So, but I'll cut that off there. Yeah, let me know your thoughts on fix and flipping versus new builds in the comments. And if you ever want to chat about it or have any questions about it, always feel free to reach out. And again, go to wendellbutler.com. I got my newsletter there you can subscribe to. I got my social media there. You can shoot me a follow. And yeah, thank you for listening. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.